Hello and welcome to another edition of the Hooligan Report. It's our last episode of the season, part 2 of our review of the Premier League season, and I have with me Cruyff,
Hello.
and I also have Wealstone Raider.
Howdy.
Boys, well, let's get stuck into it. It's been quite an interesting season, some unexpected results, as we touched on that in the first part. I wanted to go into detail, first of all, about the title race, especially as you were both involved in it at different points of the season. Manchester City as well, although in the end it was Leicester getting the win. I'll start with you, Cruyff. Arsenal obviously kind of set the pace early on. Did you have much hope that you'd actually pull through and win the title?
If you ask JD, he said I called us champions at Christmas, and unfortunately that is true. I said we'll win the league. It was sort of in jest, but I mean I did think we could do it because I think we were top in December or around Christmas time. But I mean we just come the Christmas period, we just padded off after that, and we really couldn't recover from a poor festive period.
You had that win over Leicester with the last minute winner. Did that sort of would that? From memory, that didn't put you back on top, did it? Or were you on top?
I don't think so. No, it gave me a bit of hope. Like a bit of hope was reinvigorated, but I was still quite pessimistic of our chances then, because I think that was in February or March.
Yeah, and then Wealstone Raider with Spurs. You obviously made the late charge, and you were sort of the last man standing in the challenge against Leicester, but then still managed to end up finishing third.
Can you stop right there?
But
yeah, sorry, carry on.
Sorry, I was just going to say, in terms of expectations at the start of the season, was it still a successful season in your mind?
Oh yeah. We well exceeded, I think, our expectations. It was all, yeah. I mean, the hope was like that we'd sneak into the top four. And we more than sort of achieved that. Won't lie, it was a bit of a downer at the end. Not massively. I know there was a big hoo-ha on the boards. You know, all the gooners jumping in saying, "Oh, how devastated we must be." But it was gutting. But it wasn't like, "Oh no, this is the end of the world" kind of thing. It's not like being sort of pipped to fourth place, is it? It was different to that. I mean, it was more. I never thought we was going to win the league, even sort of 4 or 5 games out. I just think we just had too much to do. So even losing the league wasn't like a Liverpool Slippy G kind of scenario. It was a you'd already accepted it. Do you know what I mean? So it was gutting the way we threw away the 2-0 lead at Chelsea and just completely imploded on that night. But I think everyone's really Spurs are quite happy. But of course, you got to listen now all summer long to well, not obviously, you know what I mean. The Gooners are sort of still crying over you. So, but yeah, it was definitely a good season.
Do you think that?
Do you think
mind the gap?
Shut it.
Do you think it kind of gives you that self-belief, though, that next season you can go on and win the title, or
that's what I really like. An interesting question, because I made like a bit of a prediction that it will be between Liverpool and Spurs next season. But I mean, you just can't. It's going to be so much stuff going on over the summer that I just think it's no one's going to know really until all the transfer business is done. I think we are in a strong position if we just going forwards, because we've got a team. We've almost got a complete team. I think we probably do need obviously a backup or an addition to Kane, and maybe a bit more depth in midfield, especially being in the Champions League. But you just don't know what City, United, Chelsea, and even Arsenal are going to do in the summer. So it's it's a bit early to say, isn't it, at the moment?
Well, if you believe the papers overnight, Arsenal have triggered Jamie Vardy's release
Yeah.
clause, so that,
Yeah, I
that
saw
could be
that, yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, big time. He's not an Arsenal player, though, is he, really?
No.
I can't imagine. It's a bit of a... Who was that one they brought the fox in the box? It reminds me of it's Francis Jeffers. It's going to be another one of them, I reckon. I just don't think he'll fit the Arsenal mould. I don't know what Cruyff thinks about that.
You put Ozil behind Jamie Vardy. Jamie Vardy will score 50 goals in the season, and that's just in the league. That's just he had the donkey Giroud.
Well, he started early
in front
this
of him.
season, didn't he?
He had the donkey Giroud in front of him and created 145 assists in the league, which is the most ever. And he's assisted the most in the top league since 2002.
145. How many seasons has Ozil been at? 3, isn't it?
3.
What? And how many assists?
In this season alone, he created 145 chances.
Oh, right, but how many of them were proper chances? Do you know what I mean? I mean, that's just one of those stats. Like, does that mean any shot on goal is considered a chance?
I mean, I don't know, but that's
but there's still a lot. I mean, he's
I've
obviously
seen.
still a lot. He's a class player. He's one of the best
The issue is,
4
though,
or
with
5
Jamie,
players in the league.
Jamie Vardy plays on that sort of counter-attacking style of football where he has a lot of space to break into, but Arsenal build the play up, so I don't know how he can really benefit.
I don't think Vardy's technically good enough to be an Arsenal player. I mean, obviously he can score goals, but he can't dribble. I don't think his first touch is that great. He's not a great passer. It sort of bucks the Arsenal trend, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, the third team that missed out on the title after an early challenge was Manchester City, and I wanted to ask you both. Obviously, the announcement that Pep Guardiola was taking over in the summer seems to have been that turning point for City, but last season as well, they really seemed to struggle in the second half of the season. Do you think that Guardiola can turn them around for next season?
Absolutely.
In 3 months, he'll be able to change the mentality enough?
Nah.
Maybe not 3 months, but if he comes in, makes his stamp, and especially with training regimes and methods and how they train.
Don't believe the hype, as Public Enemy said, mate. Seriously. He's only ever been in leagues where it's like a 1 or 2 horse race, so he's going to be completely a new
Yeah, but then he's still won the Champions League twice or 3 times.
Yeah, with Barcelona. I mean, I could win the Champions League with Barcelona.
But they didn't win it this year.
Yeah, but Pep wasn't there this year.
No, but that's what I mean. Barcelona didn't win it
But
this year.
he didn't even get... I mean, he's taken... would you say that he's taken Bayern Munich backwards almost, you know?
Well, they won the Champions League under him, didn't they? I think.
No, not under Pep, no.
Oh, I'm not sure. Like, I don't think Munich...
They didn't even reach the final.
He won 82 of 103 Bundesliga games or something.
Yeah,
but again, the Bundesliga. But
yeah.
Again, you can only beat what's in front of you, though.
I accept that.
It's a relative, but...
But I mean, what his thing was at Barcelona, wasn't it that he just brought through all the youth kind of players? It wasn't like he moulded a team. So
he still taught them to play the way they do, though.
Is that right?
Well,
So he was
for a youth coach to come through and coach a senior team like Barcelona to numerous Champions Leagues and La Ligas. It's not a walk in the park.
I accept that. But then, how long will it take him to like see the fruition of the?
It depends who he signs.
So obviously,
yeah, but whoever he signs, he can't. Yeah, but whoever he signs, he can't mould into the player that he wants because he can only do that with youth, can't he?
Well, there was the point made that who was it? Vieira was managing the Manchester City youth team in the style that Guardiola would expect them to play. So you might see some of those younger guys coming through for Man City already playing in the right style that Guardiola's looking for. So you'd hope that City is sort of starting to prepare for him being in charge. Do we see him being like do we see him being a long-term manager for City, or?
That's my point. I don't think you will see. I mean, unless he goes out and buys the Messis, and which I don't think will happen, you won't see an immediate situation where
they've signed
they
Gundogan
become
already,
Barcelona Mark II.
So they've signed Gundogan already, and that's already a start with. I mean, he's good on the ball, good first touch, good vision, good passing, Guardiola type player. I mean, he's got De Bruyne, he's got Silva, Kun. There's a report he wants 10 new players, but it's not like he has a bunch of duds to start with. He's got a few world-class players there already.
So back to that question then, I guess. Do you see him being a long-term manager for City, or will he be sort of that 3 or 4 year job for them?
I think he'll get...
that period, I reckon.
Yeah, I think he'll get a bit bored to stay beyond, say, 4 years. I reckon.
Do you reckon? Because I mean, as you say, he's only been in leagues where there's 1 or 2 teams for the title. Would managing City sort of be much more interesting for him and much more of a challenge if every year he's not?
Yeah, I suppose so.
The title?
Yeah, I think the Premiership in general will be a bigger challenge for him, and and I suppose at City he's got everything that he needs to be successful, but. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. We just have to sort of see on that one. I definitely think he'll be certainly medium term. I mean, whether it's long term, I don't know.
And then obviously, final word should go to the champions of the league, which is Leicester. Just an unbelievable season, I expect you guys to say. I mean, to come from where they were last season to being title winners this season is just absolutely incredible. At what point did each of you really believe that they could win the title? Given the fact that obviously up until January or so, it was sort of expected that they'd fall away.
Feb.
What was that, Cruyff?
For me, it was Feb.
Feb.
I was off them for a while, and then I'm like, I can't dislike them. They're doing too well, and I conceded defeat.
I think before, it certainly weren't before Christmas. I think the City game was a turn. I think the Spurs game when they beat us 1-0. I thought we wouldn't catch them after that game. I don't think that was before we had our really good run. But I think so the Spurs game was when I started to think they could do it, and I think the City game when they won there. I think I actually even said that they would win the league at that point. I think that was January or February.
Yeah, I think that City game for me, that 3-0 win was just so comprehensive.
Yeah, that was, I think a lot of people then started to think, it still was kind of like, oh no, they can't, surely it's Leicester, they can't do it. But I think people, if you actually looked at the stats and who they had to play, and they were starting to get it together defensively, I think it was about that time. And it came sort of, I mean, it wasn't long after that when that really, they would have had to choke really to lose it, I thought. And I mean, and Arsenal and City both went on really bad runs around that time, didn't they, as well? So,
who would you each say was their most important player for the season? Who had the most influence on them eventually winning the title?
Well, are we doing that from you asking or from a Bayern perspective where how many times they touched the ball?
Well, just from the perspective of who had the biggest influence on their season,
it's got to be.
You go.
Mahrez, isn't it?
Well, to me, I don't think you can pinpoint one player because without Kante, they might have a leaky defence. Without Mahrez, they don't score the goals. Without Vardy, they don't score the goals. With a poorer keeper, they concede a lot more. Without Morgan, they don't have leadership. So I don't think you can actually pinpoint one thing in that Leicester side who is. You know what? I'd say Ranieri.
Yeah, he's a massive factor, isn't he? But I just can't like. I don't understand how it happened really. Still to this day, I'm thinking. And even Tottenham, how did Tottenham almost, how were they the last man standing as a challenger? I mean, it's just a really bizarre season. I think, if you look at it, one more thing on that, I think Vardy started the season on fire, and then it was all about Mahrez, and then I think it all sort of came about Kante. So I think each one of those three players had like a big spell, where they was not carrying the team, but sort of stepping up, you know.
And then certainly in those 1-0 results towards the end, Schmeichel really stood up as well.
Schmeichel, yeah. The whole defence was just like really. I mean, I think we conceded less goals than them, didn't we? But there wasn't much in it in the end. Thanks to Newcastle.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Newcastle, that's a good segue. We can talk now about the relegated sides in that relegation battle towards the end of the season.
That's right.
Sorry?
Unbelievable. Newcastle and Villa are like two massive. I mean, well, maybe not massive, but I mean they're top 10, aren't they? Would you say clubs in England?
You would say so, yeah.
Definitely.
In terms of history, and you look at just the sheer size of their stadiums. To be
Yeah.
competing in the championship, you think Burton Albion supporters, for instance, being promoted from League One, going to a ground like St James's Park will just be
Yeah, that's
unbelievable for
right.
them. Villa obviously for most of the season looked nailed on for relegation, so they were sort of out of the running for survival quite early. But in terms of Norwich and Newcastle, you can look at sides like Sunderland. Was another one that came quite close to going down, and I'm trying to think who else was really in the relegation battle for
I
much
thought
of the season.
Swansea at one time
Swansea,
were
that's
looking
it,
pretty
yeah, Swansea.
dicey.
Yeah,
but
when Monk was around, yeah, they weren't looking too great. Shot. Palace got dragged down
yeah,
towards
Palace
the end.
were. So there's one other, wasn't there?
Norwich,
Well,
Norwich went down.
yeah.
Obviously.
yeah, Sunderland.
There was six, I think. Yeah, those. So the three that went down plus
Bournemouth were in it for a
Sunderland,
little
Swansea,
bit.
and Palace.
Towards the midway of the season, I think Bournemouth were sort of in and around that area.
Oh, yeah,
They pulled
yeah.
away a bit.
I think they was always just above like danger,
Yeah.
wasn't they? So,
So-
I mean, I think they'll really struggle next year, Bournemouth.
Of the three that did go down, who do you guys see as the most likely to come back up? Who's sort of best prepared for bouncing?
Oh,
straight
as well,
back
it's
up?
obvious that in it really. It's
Yeah.
Newcastle. I think Villa obviously have made. Now they've got rid of their owner, and I think it's Di Matteo been appointed
Yeah,
now.
Di Matteo's been appointed with Steve Clark as his assistant, so that's a pretty experienced duo.
So I mean, they've got to do so much work though. I mean, they've almost got to buy a whole new team. So it's still not guaranteed. Well, nowhere near guaranteed that they're going to come straight back up. But I think they'll have a lot. I mean, the people talk about their double relegation, which I don't think is going to happen now. But Newcastle, definitely. I mean, almost. I mean, I think they'd be almost odds on to come up. And Norwich is a difficult one. They're sort of yo-yoing now, aren't they? So they'll probably be certainly in the sort of frame, top six kind of thing.
What's your opinion, Cruyff?
I mean, it's an interesting one. I don't know, to be honest.
I mean,
Good
who will Newcastle lose? Probably Townsend.
Wijnaldum.
Got Wijnaldum.
Shelby might stick around, but you'd back Newcastle to come back up, I think. And
I mean,
potentially
Villa.
Villa,
With their manager. Their manager.
Villa were
I mean,
absolutely woeful though, and
Who's
you've got to
what-
wonder. You go.
Sorry, I was just going to say. No, I was just making a point about. I mean, Benitez is. I mean, there's about a discussion on the board whether he's sort of being. I mean, he's a top level manager, but whether
think
it
it'd
would
be
count for anything in the championship. But
It
surely
would be a
I
huge
think it would.
disappointment for Newcastle if they couldn't get back up with Benitez as
Yeah.
manager.
Exactly.
Yeah, they've
And
given themselves
you-
the best chance.
Surely, and I guess Derby too. I mean, not that they were in the Premier League last season, but
Yeah, Derby with
they-
Nigel Pearson now.
yeah.
There's a few,
So, but
there's a
you-
few
you-
pretty scary looking championship clubs for next season.
I think Villa though Villa will be interesting to see how they perform.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
I think I like to see Brighton come up because I just think they're so unlucky. I mean, how many points? 87, 89 was it or
yeah,
something?
they missed out on an automatic promotion on goal difference.
Yeah,
Wow.
and they've a couple of seasons now they've been sort of in that position, or well, not. I mean, this season even more so. And I just think it'd be nice to see them come up because it's a different kind of team that haven't been up before.
Yeah, well,
QPR, I think QPR will come good. I still hope to see Leeds getting it together. You know, you never know. Forest, Ipswich. There's some big clubs that down there that would definitely add to the Prem.
and I guess that was
So,
my point in
there's-
regards to Benitez at Newcastle was that, just throwing money at the division won't necessarily get success because you look at a club like a Brighton or a Derby or whoever who have actually, or Sheffield Wednesday, who have played in that league for so many years now and are so accustomed to that, to what is
But what
needed
I'd
to
say
get out of
that-
it.
what I'd say to that, Sam, is like your club. You managed to keep your team together, and
But even then, we only barely scraped out of it.
yeah. But you then do. I mean, how much better of a manager is Benitez to the Bruce?
Sure, but Bruce also. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think if they keep the majority of their players together, I can't see any reason why they and they did finish the season really well. I mean, look how they murdered. I don't know what Tottenham were playing out in that last game, but there was other good results. They drew at Liverpool. City, I think they drew with, and they won some. I mean, so the signs are good for them, I think. But yeah, it is no guarantee. But if you was a betting man, you'd definitely put money on Newcastle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as you say, we did scrape out of the division through the playoffs, and looking at managers like Benitez and Di Matteo, I'm pretty happy to be out of it. Well, we'll talk now then about the playoff final, which Hull did win, and we did get promoted as a result. And I know that there was a lot of discussion on the board around some off-field aspects of the playoff final, which I thought might be worth discussing briefly on here. Well, it's quite an interesting one because in the last few days there's been a bit of talk to and fro about whether we will actually be sold, because the owners have had us supposedly up for sale for about 2 years now. It's pretty ridiculous. If you look on Twitter, people posting quotes from SMLM from the time where he said he'd go within 24 hours if the name change didn't go through, and if he couldn't find a buyer, he'd give the club away for free. But we're still sat here 2 years later waiting for a sale to go through. And what I reckon's happened now is that they've looked at the money on offer in the Premier League and thought, actually, you know what, might be worth hanging around for next season. But there's just been so many off-field issues with those owners over the last 2 or 3 years that they've been in charge. From telling the supporters to die when they want, when we chanted that we were City till we die, from closing a community sporting centre in Hull and turning it into our grounds for our academy, which I think legally we weren't able to do, but somehow it's been pushed to the side and ignored. From basically, they're trying to bring in a membership scheme for next season which abolishes concessions, so seniors and kids will be basically paying the same as an adult, which for some of them is, going from a £30 season ticket to a £230 season ticket. And then just there's been a stealth rebrand of the club, which I think is one of the things that's bothering people a lot as well, because despite the name change being rejected, if you look at our Facebook page, if you look at any media put out by the club, any news articles, any ticketing information, it all lists us as the Tigers or as Hull City Tigers or anything like that.
That's outrageous.
Which it's just ridiculous that the FA has made a decision about what our name is, and the club has just basically disregarded them.
I don't know what you can do, to be honest. I mean, is it beneficial to all to stay away? I mean,
absolutely, and that's why we can't understand why they want to stay in charge, because Semalam, from all reports, is very, very much on his deathbed, quite literally. Gravely ill. His son Ehab, who's taken over the running of the club, is also trying to run their marine business. So, from all.
Well, where are these blokes from? Are they from Thailand?
No, so they're Egyptian initially, but
where? Sorry,
Egypt.
Oh, sorry, all right.
But they've been living. They've been living.
So how did they get involved in the?
So they've been living in Hull
how did they get
for 60
involved
years.
in the club?
They've been living in Hull for about 60 years. So SM came
Oh,
over
right.
to escape a dictator regime in Egypt and settled in Hull, where he went to uni, where he became an accountant and built up his fortune, and his son was born and raised here. So it's interesting. I mean, people look at the club and say, "Oh, bloody foreign owners, look what they've done." But
I'll
they're
tell you what,
essentially
mate,
British
you're in
owners.
a right old pickle, aren't you?
Yeah. So
You're in a bit of a pickle, I think.
So I would have thought from all sides that having some sort of agreement that if we stay up, that the new owners provide the alums with a further payment upon survival would make sense to both sides, because then the alums can still get extra income from us staying up in the Premier League, but as a club we can move forward and can actually get this new ownership in.
Well, I'll tell you what, you know, if you're going into the Premiership, you need to, your club needs to be all singing from the same hymn sheet, and it's going to be so competitive. It's a big summer ahead, I think, to sort things out there.
So to bring it back to the playoff final, the last few games of the season we were having protests against this membership scheme where they had a red card protest where everyone in the ground basically was holding up red cards to give the membership scheme the red card, and
that's why only 55 of them turned up.
Yeah, well, basically, yeah, a lot of people who have boycotted games all season, because for whatever reason, whether it was the name change, whether it was the treatment from the owner, or what it was, a lot of people have basically said they were staying away until he left, and they did that last season in the Premier League. They've done it this season in the Championship, so it's not a I want to go in the Championship.
I didn't notice they'd stayed away last season.
Well, that's
I know.
Sorry.
I was one of the people who had a conversation with you on the board about this, and I'm of the opinion. I wouldn't say I back the fans doing that, but I wouldn't condone them for doing it either. I think it's entirely their choice. So it's not like I don't. It does. It's unfortunate that it's going to hurt you as a club, but. On the other hand, I think they've got a right to feel aggrieved. So it's one of those.
I think it wasn't noticeable last season in the Premier League because we would have still had all of those sorts of Premier League tourists going to games and filling out those empty seats. But they've obviously stayed away this season, and the supporters who are actually boycotting the games are a lot more noticeable. And that is then why for the Wembley game there was so few seats sold, because people just become so disenchanted with the club and so alienated.
Do you know the actual amount? The actual amount that you took down there?
I think.
I mean, they closed the whole top tier, didn't they?
Yeah. I think we took something like 25 or 26,000, which is tiny, and I accept that's tiny. But when you consider that,
that's like what. That's
average,
what a League Two side would take, isn't it?
When
really?
you consider that our average gate for the season's been about 12 or 13,000, that's.
Well, I suppose all you have to do, SM, is look back and how many did you take? Was it 2008 or 9?
Well, 8 for the playoff final, but then 2014 for the FA Cup final, and we sold it out. Semi-final and final for the FA Cup, we sold it out. So it's not an issue that we don't have the supporter base. It's just that people aren't feeling the desire to go.
Yeah, a bit of worrying times, mate. Worrying times. I hope, you sort of get something sorted out. Because you're going to need to.
To get back onto the on-field side of things, though, did either of you catch the game? And if so, what were your thoughts on the final?
Yeah, I thought you dominated the game. I did watch that game, and the right team definitely won. I was a bit disappointed for Wednesday. I know. Yeah, I was happy for you, but I thought Wednesday, with their support, but then it was their first big sort of day from years, wasn't it? But and they are quite a big club. But you deserve to go up, and you deserve to go up over Sheffield Wednesday. Obviously, finished with a lot more points. So,
Cruyff,
I'll shut up now.
That's all right. Cruyff, did you catch the game?
I only saw the goal, but what a hit!
Yeah. If you look at the highlights as a whole, as well as Wealstone Raider is saying, I mean, it was one of those games where we had so many chances in the first half. I almost started to get worried that it wasn't going to be our day, and it was one of those games where you have all of those chances, and then Wednesday would nick a goal down the other end and hold on for an undeserved win. So it was quite lucky that we did actually end up winning the game. But
I bet you was I can imagine you was going through the motions on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I had the same thought. But it doesn't always pan out like that. But it does cross your mind, doesn't it?
So Middlesbrough, Burnley, and Hull all promoted for next season. I guess question, like I said, with the relegated teams, with these promoted teams, who's the most likely to stay up now?
That's a good question. I think. I mean, what usually happens? I was thinking about this because I'm getting old and sad, but usually you never get three teams. You never get all three teams go down, do you? Back down, straight back down.
Not
You never
usually,
get you never get all three teams stay up. So basically, what you're looking at is either one, usually one, I think, of the three will go down, and sometimes two. So I think out of I think, to be fair, if nothing is resolved at Hull, then you would, unfortunately think that Hull are probably the prime candidate out of the three to go back down. But you've got to look at the other teams in the Premiership, and I think, I think there's a bit of talk on the board about second season syndrome, and I think that's really true. I think it's almost as hard to stay up after the second season for the smaller clubs than it is for the first, because the novelty factor wears off. The excitement sort of slightly descends, if you like. So I think teams like Watford and Bournemouth, Sunderland, the perennial strugglers, I think they might do better next year. So I still think you'll get 5 or 6 teams a game. All scrapping to survive, and I think all three of those teams could well factor in, be a part of that. So
I think Middlesbrough are the interesting one because they have the supporter base and presumably the resources as well to actually build quite an impressive side. But of the three, they obviously need to do the most work on their squad because Burnley and Hull have pretty much retained the squads that they had last time they were up.
what's the situation? How much money do you don't get the 90 million that the Premier League clubs got at the end of the season? Did you? As a promoter?
No, we don't. Oh well, so we've got the money that we like. So I think the budgets for this season.
Sorry, those payments come in next season, don't they?
Yeah. So we receive that money now. So, or in the sense that we can sign players on the.
So you're on an equal footing.
Yeah.
You're on an equal footing with the rest of the Premier League clubs.
Cruyff, who do you think's the most likely to stay up?
I want to say Middlesbrough, but I have no logic behind that reasoning. So, but that's my answer.
Well, fair enough then. We'll move on then.
Moving on.
Moving on then. We'll start to wrap things up then, and I'll get from each of you your favourite and least favourite game for the season for your club. I might start with you, Cruyff. As an Arsenal supporter, what was your favourite game of the season, and also your least favourite?
From an Arsenal perspective, I'd say beating United 3-0. Tore them apart at the Emirates.
First 20 minutes, all over them.
Yeah, all over Red Raven.
Game was finished after 20 minutes. Brilliant that day, Arsenal.
Mopped the floor with them. Least favourite, the 4-0 at Southampton sticks out. I think that was the game after Boxing Day before New Year's.
Shane Long trying to appeal himself to potential suitors from Spurs.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one that definitely sticks out for me. And I guess losing to Chelsea when they're still utter rubbish is always. I think that's disappointing too.
That the game
you always lose to Chelsea.
Say that again.
Was that the game with the 2 red cards? Was it?
Yeah, one was
Gabriel.
One was in the 90th minute, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Gabriel and.
Wasn't Coquelin or someone, was it?
Cazorla, I think.
Cazorla? Yeah, yeah, that's right. It was Cazorla. Yeah.
But Gabriel should never have been off, and Costa should have been sent off. So it was a calamity all round, really. But I mean, we should have done better. But things weren't on our side that day too, so that never helps. But I mean, the Southampton game is the real one that sticks out for me.
Wealstone Raider, how about for yourself?
Yeah, I think probably the 3-0 win at home to Man United as well. I think that if there was a time when I thought there was a chink of possibility of winning the league, it would have been after that game. and that was, I mean, second half we played really well, and I think we scored 3 goals in about a quarter of an hour, 10-15 minutes. So that sticks out. I think the win at City as well was another good one. I think we was maybe slightly fortunate to win that but it was a really good performance as well. And the worst one would, oh God,
Chelsea 2-2?
do you know what? Say again?
Chelsea 2-2 was...
No, it wouldn't be that Chelsea 2-2. I would say that was just a mad game. But I think the one that I'm probably most disappointed, unfortunately, was Arsenal at home, because we.
That's interesting.
Yeah, we were 2-1 up, and Arsenal were down to 10 men.
But surely losing it to Chelsea, meaning you win a title. Don't you think that's disappointing though?
Yeah, but listen, look, if we'd have held out to beat Chelsea that day, it still only meant Leicester had to win their next game, didn't it? It just meant it carried it on for another match. I think I felt more disappointment at the Arsenal game because there were still enough games to go, and I think we'd lost to West Ham.
How about the Newcastle game when you lost?
Yeah, but I'm glad that was a nothing game. It was like beach town football, wasn't it? It was. I mean, that was a joke. I mean, I can't get upset about games that are just a bit of a joke, really. I mean, all right. We may be another 20 years before we finish above you bastards, but it wasn't. I wasn't that. No, I'm sticking with the Arsenal game. That hurt more than the Newcastle and Chelsea ones.
Okay. Well, any closing thoughts from you guys? A summary of the season, or who you're hoping to sign over the summer, perhaps, before we sign off?
Oh, good.
Messi would be good. Maybe Schwab.
I'd like to see Bale come back. We got first dips.
Well, we've apparently activated Vardy's release clause, so that's interesting.
Would you be happy? Would you really like that signing?
Well, he scores goals, but he's not an Arsenal player in terms of technical ability. He's not a great dribbler. He's not a great passer. Doesn't have a great first touch.
I suppose.
Do you think Vardy's better than Giroud? Cruyff.
Yeah, it's got to be.
He is, but at the end of the day, they're different types of forwards.
So I guess what I'm asking is, if you were looking to sign a striker in the summer who could lead your line for next season and be a better, like an improvement on Giroud, surely that's not Vardy.
I agree. Yes, correct.
Yeah. So
Because I think, without trying to drag this on too much longer though, if we sign Vardy, we'd have to change our style completely, or play with 4 up front, which means we lose someone in midfield.
Yeah. Wilson, who are you hoping to sign in the summer?
You're probably asking the wrong man, because I don't know a lot. I'm outside of. JD. They'll tell you about it.
In terms of the type of player you think you'd need to sign, what do you need? Is it, for instance, a backup striker for Kane, or
definitely, yeah. I mean, it's almost, we can't go another season without another striker, can we? I mean, we're so lucky to get away with Kane sort of never going down with an injury. Plus, obviously, you can't. Whereas the Europa League, you can sort of rest up players, especially in the group games. You can't do that in the in the Champions League. So but sure, I mean, we've got to sign a striker, and I'm sure we will. But just sort of, it's going to interesting to see who we sign. I mean, will a striker, top level striker? I'm not talking about the very top level, but would they want to come and play second fiddle anyway? So it's going to be interesting, really, to see what Levy does there. I don't want that what's his name, Berahino. I've gone right off the idea of signing him now. I think we can definitely get someone better than that. Is it Lecante? Is the bloke in... Oh, that's probably it. I don't know anything about him, but he sounds... It's a nice name, so yeah, that'd be a good one.
Okay, well, no worries, guys. Thanks for coming on, for doing this recap of the season.
Yeah, at 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, great stuff.
You're a
Just
soldier,
ruined my
yeah.
Saturday, but never mind.
And thanks, Cruyff.
And
Thank you.
we're gonna talk about a Euros, are we, in the next week or something?
Oh yeah, we'll try
Are
and
you
do a
good?
Euros. We'll try and do a Euros podcast in the coming weeks. Whether it's
Yeah,
at the
be
start
good.
or at some point during the Euros to discuss how that's all going. It's probably going to be the next
Yeah.
edition. And I guess I wanted to take the chance to thank everyone who's been on at some point this season. I think we've had Jats and Friar Tuck, we've had NUFC, Tiger, Milang Panthers, and probably a few
JD.
others. JD,
Bojan.
and obviously Bojan. Yeah, so there's been a good group on for this season, and
Oh, what about you? Forgot one person,
yeah.
Jod.
Oh, yeah. Jod, of course. It was a great
How can you forget Jod?
great cameo by Jod. I actually really enjoyed that episode. He was actually quite good to
Yeah.
speak to.
Level-headed.
Yeah, it was a bit surprising.
I don't think it was Jod actually. I think that's
Yeah, it's
some
his
kind
mate.
of interloper.
And thank you everyone for listening in. I hope you've enjoyed this season of the Hooligan Report, and we'll hopefully be back in a few weeks to discuss the Euros and then to preview next season. So until then, we'll see you on the forums.